Let's go over how to set the minimum nights for the property rule, seasons, and spot rates. To set the minimum nights for the property, go to Properties, then select the property. Then click the Rules tab, then click the Change button. If we scroll down, we'll see the minimum nights restriction. Currently, we have the default set to 2 nights. You can also set the default nights for holidays, and you can specify which holidays by clicking here. You can also set the default for weekends, which applies to Friday or Saturday nights. You can also choose to allow a different minimum night during gaps. You can view your gaps by going to the Bookings tab. Then if we look right here, we'll see on this property we have a 3-night gap. If we go back to Properties, select that property, then go to the Rules and click Change. You can say allow a booking that fills the entire gap, at least this many minimum nights. For example, if your default minimum nights was 4, but you wanted to allow bookings during gaps with less than that, you can change the minimum nights here to something like 3. Then if somebody were to book the entire gap that we just showed, they would be able to, because we changed the minimum nights during gaps that filled the entire gap to 3. And you can also select Use Minimum Nights instead and set that here. This is useful if you'd like the minimum nights to be different during a gap time, but don't care if the entire gap is filled. The default minimum nights you set here will be applied to all nights, unless you have a season or spot rate that is different. If you have a season that occurs every year with a minimum night that is higher than 2, you can go to Settings, then select Seasons, then click Create Season. Let's say you had a season for the first week of November that required 3-night minimum. We'll call this November 3-night. Now we'll set the recurring dates to November 1st to November 7th. Now if we scroll down, we'll see under length restrictions the minimum nights. We'll set this to 3. You can also choose to set a minimum weekend night, and you can set a minimum gap night. We'll go ahead and click Save. Now if we go to our hosted website, and we try to make a booking, we'll select that first night, and we'll try to book for only 2 nights. Here we are given a warning that says a minimum of 3 nights is required. If we go back and change this to the 4th, we'll see that warning goes away as they have met the 3-night requirement. Setting the default nights in a season will always overwrite the minimum amount of nights you set in the property rule. If we go back to OwnerRez, we can also set minimum nights for spot rates. To do so, go to Settings, then click Rates. Then we'll select that property. Let's say you wanted to have the minimum nights for one specific night to only be 1. To do so, you would set a spot rate. We'll go down to September, and on the 30th, we'll click Set Rate and change the minimum nights to 1. Then click Update. Spot rates override the minimum night on both seasonal and property rules. Spot rates come first, then seasonal, then property rules. Now if we go to our website and hit refresh, we can select that property, then set the arrival date to September 30th through August 1st. Here we see that has been accepted and the 2-night property rule has been overwritten. Any minimum night changes, whether that be the property rule, seasons, or spot rates, will automatically be pushed over to any connected API channels. If we go back to OwnerRez, you can also set a special quote that will overwrite the minimum nights you have set. If we click Quotes, then click Create Quote, we can select that property, select the dates, and then we will see that we are prompted with a warning that says a minimum of 2 nights is required. When we click Create Quote, we can go ahead and overwrite that. We'll simply enter the guest info, then click Save. When you click Save, a second warning will appear at the top confirming whether or not you'd like to overwrite the violations. We'll go ahead and leave this checked and click Save. The quote has been created for the one night. That is how you set the minimum nights for the property rule, seasons, and spot rates.